Okay, yeah, I figured out how to record now. I got it right.
Okay.
I've done like six of these, seven of these now, and I still forget. It's been like a month since I've done one. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do them every week, but I haven't done one in like a month. So this, I think, is my sixth episode. This is with my friend Caitlin. Um, yeah, how do you pronounce your last name?
Kaitlin Luce.
Luce. Okay. And Caitlin and I, not surprisingly, know each other from the movie theater. So that's about how most of these have been. Um, and so yeah, what do you remember from like I guess like well y- so like I have this memory with where I like remember almost when everyone was hired. I remember when you were hired there.
hmm
Like you were hired. So this is my guess. You were hired with Monica, Laura, Ty, and Travis. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I forgot about Travis. Yeah. Well, now I remember. But yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you remember about like I guess me and you meeting each other? Anything?
Um, like what do I remember about you? Um, just kind of okay, so like what vibes did I get from you?
Well, I mean, like, because what I remember is, your brother, like, I had become friends with your brother before you started there, and him like telling people, like, he told me too, like, hey, watch out for my sister. She's gonna work here soon and stuff. So I remember when you started, but yeah, and then there was the comments about, we both drove the same kind of car,
Did
like,
we really? Did we really? The
we, bo
did you drive a Geostorm?
yes, I remember I
Oh,
had a teal one, and you had the pink one, and you used to be like, "Oh, we're twins," and I'd be like, "We're
oh.
not twins."
How do I not? How did I forget that? Because like that car, I still think about that car. Like I love that car. I shouldn't have gotten rid of it. But then again, it was a 1990 Geostorm, so like it's probably junk now.
Yeah, mine, I really liked mine, and it junked out like I mean, maybe 2 years after having it, 2.5 years or something. How long did you have that car?
Oh my gosh. So I traded it in. I wanted something like, I don't know, nicer, fancier, whatever. And so I traded it in when I was probably, oh, I don't know, like 20. So I had it for, a number of years. So I don't think I had any like problems with it. Like I loved it. I mean, I mostly loved it like after I got it because I bought it silver. So I mostly loved it like after I got it painted pink, of course.
Oh, you bought it and it was silver and you painted it pink?
Yeah. hmm
Wow. Um, so like so yeah, we met at the movie theater. You worked there for a couple years, right? Like 2 years or something?
No, longer than that. So I was there. So let's see. Was I 16 when I got hired? Did I get hired in 2001? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, it would have been October of '01.
Okay. Um, and then I was there until I was like 20 years old. So like I was there probably at least 3 years, I feel like, if not longer. Yeah.
Yeah, I quit there in May of 2004. So, and I thought you were still there then. So, but maybe you weren't going there as much. Did you start going to school or something?
Um, what was I doing in 2004? Oh my goodness. I don't know that I even lived in the area because like at the very end when I still worked at Regal, I was working at Regal and 24-hour fitness and then eventually quit Regal. So in 2004, I don't think I was living in the area. Yeah.
Um, And so like after the theater, what did you do next?
So yeah, I was at 24-hour and then oh my goodness. I like, my memory. Like I remember things that I did because I moved like with my grandparents in Hubbard for a short time and went to beauty school and was a beauty school dropout. And then I got into property management, I guess, after that. It's a little fuzzy, like the timeline of everything and how that worked out. So yeah.
Wh- Where's Hubbard?
Hubbard is like, do you know where Canby, Oregon is?
Yeah.
Okay. So Hubbard is like just right by Canby. Yeah.
Um, how did you like it down there?
Um, yeah, I liked it. It was different. It was definitely like a change of pace. And, like I was young and got to meet new people, and my grandparents like didn't know what the heck to do with like a young adult living with them. So it's probably very weird, and there wasn't tons of rules. But it was good. It was nice. It was pretty short lived, but it was good. Yeah.
Is that the only time you've like moved out of the area?
Um, is it? I think so. Yeah, I think so. Because I know you've lived out of the area um quite a lot more than myself, that's for sure. But yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I moved around quite a bit. It all kind of bleeds together though, and it's like trying to figure out which time era is which time era. Like I start assuming my friends know each other, then I have to realize they're from different eras of my life. I was like, no, they don't know each other. Um,
Yeah.
so you went to beauty school for a little bit, and and you got into property management. Uh, and then let me look at my list of things. Uh, so like I'm trying to think. If I remember right, I had a story I wanted to mention. So me and you didn't talk much at the theater. Like I remember talking a little bit to you, um,
Mhm.
but it's not like we like hung out. We didn't like do anything like that. But a few years later after the theater, I think it was like 2008 or something. I had deleted all of my social media, like my live journal, my um
Live
MySpace.
journal.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. Yeah.
My MySpace, everything. And I was like, I've banished that world away. And yeah, I had no social media for like a good year and a half, I want to say. And then I had made a Facebook at one point, I think early 2007, only to because I had a roommate that was like a Craigslist ad. And when we
Mhm.
were talking to each other, she was like, well, hey, if you have any questions about me, or we want to get an idea about what like what kind of personality I have. Here, she sent me her link to her Facebook, and so I had to create a Facebook to be able to see that link. And so I
Mhm.
had a link that was just all it said was Rob Ryan, and it was like no picture, no like bio or anything. I forgot I had it, and then in 2009, uh I didn't have a computer at my house, so I would show up to the library every few days and check my email, and it was like, you have a friend request. And I go, a friend request, and I go, from Facebook, and it was you. You were
Oh.
the first person to add me on Facebook, and I remember laughing and being like, how the hell did Kaitlin find me, and with like no bio and no photo? And Rob Ryan's kind of a pretty common name. I thought that was kind of funny because then after you added me or whatever, pretty soon there was like 15 of your Regal friends added me or so, because we, worked with the same people. And then I was like, I guess I'm on Facebook now, and been on there ever since. Um, and then I think we started talking on Facebook, and then um, it's because I have quite a memory. We went out for do you remember this? Me, you, and Megan Taylor were supposed to meet up for breakfast, or like we're going to IHOP.
I remember meeting you at IHOP and having
Megan didn't
coffee.
show.
Oh, I don't remember. You have such a vivid memory. It's absolutely insane. Um, yeah, I don't remember Megan. I mean, I remember Megan. I remember her very well. Loved Megan. Love her. She's awesome. But yeah, I I remember meeting up with you. I remember that pretty well. Like I remember our meeting sounds so funny. I remember us meeting up. So yeah.
I remember talking to you and being like, how was I not friends with you earlier? I had no idea you had such great taste in music.
Yeah, like music's one of the things that like I it's one of the things that I could talk to anyone about. Not to say that everyone else would want to like talk about that or be into that or talk about their music taste, but that's one thing. It's like food slash cooking, baking, music. There's certain things that like you could just talk about and like you'd have, you know what I mean, like lots to say. And music's just like art. It's like awesome.
Yeah. Um, it's kind of like we've been talking more and more about our individual music tastes and stuff. What are some of your I guess favorite albums or artists, or what got you into music, I guess, when you were younger? Was it just like your family or
I don't know that I have like really favorite. Do I have favorite artists? It's more like um I think you and I have talked about it before in terms of if a song brings me back to a certain time in my life or a memory, um, there might be a really good chance I like that song. A beat really gets me, certain lyrics really get me. Um, I listen to a lot of, I think I told you recently, like I listen to a lot of upbeat stuff. Um, because life just can bring you down. And like I just like to listen to a lot of upbeat stuff. But um I don't know what got me into. I mean, like my late stepdad, and then just things like, it's like things your parents listen to, I feel like, or you're just hearing things on the radio. And I've always been into like writing and poetry. And so that's where like the lyrics part of things, like catch me, yeah.
um I think we were talking before about soundtracks like sticking out.
Mm-hmm.
I've always liked the idea of like I try to write music, but like the idea of being able to put a essential soundtrack together, but have it be like one artist or one band able to like have different kinds of sound in the same um album. Uh do you have like any favorite soundtracks that stick out to you?
Oh man, I should have. I am ill prepared. Let's see. I don't know. Like there's certain things I think of like uh I don't know about favorites. Like certain things stick out of my mind, like maybe Romeo and Juliet. I used to love like American Pie, some of those songs I used to love. Um I can't really think of much right now, but I guess movies I really liked or I've seen a bunch. I can't really think of much right now. What about you?
I had that Romeo and Juliet soundtrack. I thought that was
Mm-hmm.
really good back in the day.
Oh, Clueless. Like I don't know, it sticks out because it's one of my favorite movies. And then
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's pretty badass. Do you remember like some songs off the Clueless soundtrack at all?
I don't think I listened to the Clueless soundtrack.
Okay, okay,
I'll have to check that out.
yeah,
I used to have the Gross Point Blank soundtrack, if you remember that movie.
I remember that movie, but um, okay, so I feel like that would be a pretty good soundtrack. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it had like the Violent Femmes were on it. I think there's a couple songs by them. There's a really good version of a Pete Townsend song I like. Um, I mean I have like this is kind of silly, but I got into. Do you remember when that store in Vancouver was open, Buybacks?
Yeah. Mhm.
I used to go there a lot, and I would just find CDs or whatever. And I had got most of like the Disney movie catalog. Like I'd always come up with like the Aladdin soundtrack or Lion King soundtrack, and
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
there was always there was one girl behind the counter would be like, we had this, and I didn't get it. Um, but yeah, Lord of the Rings soundtrack. Uh, I've gotten into instrumental stuff. I want to say the last like 5 years. Um, like kind of like John Williams and Danny Elfman and stuff like that. Um, so Clueless is one of your favorite movies, you'd say?
It's one of my, yeah, because I've Clueless. I love the movie. Can't Hardly Wait really sticks out. There's one with, oh, I can't think of it. It's with Christina Applegate and um Cameron Diaz. Super silly, just super funny, super silly movie, and I cannot remember what it's called. But like, I guess there's kind of a theme that I like some of those comedies back in the day. So yeah.
I'm trying to think of any comedies that I was really into. Oh, I had the well, I guess I don't know if it's a comedy, but I had the Jerry Maguire soundtrack. I thought that one was really good.
Oh yeah, of course. Every American like remembers that a song or two from that. Yeah, for sure.
Um, did you do any music yourself growing up? Did you ever take any music class?
Well, I was in choir. Um, I like I like to sing. I mean, I don't sing as much anymore. Maybe a little bit, but I was in choir for like, oh, I don't know, 2 or 3 years because, in school I was more, um, at the time I was more like, I guess, artsy, like drama, choir, rather than like athletic or sporty for sure. Yeah.
Were you a drama kid, Caitlin?
Um, uh, I prefer drama out of my real life, but that was like legit. That was like it. That was like my dream to be like an actor, actress. But yeah, I loved I wasn't like in drama for years or anything, but I really enjoyed it. It's a fun outlet and it's fun and just creative and good for someone like me who is introverted, but you can kind of let out some creative juices, you know.
Yeah, you mentioned writing and poetry. Um, I don't think you ever mentioned to me before about poetry. Did you were you into writing poetry a lot back in the day, or still?
I was like when I was really young, and um I feel like it was more I was totally boy crazy back in the day. Um and I feel like my poetry was, like love poems, and which makes sense. And then poetry, I don't really write anymore. I do write stuff, but it's not it's more um like quotes or paragraph type things, not as much like poetry.
Yeah, I used to write a lot of poetry when I was I want to say between the ages of like 15 and 19. And
I feel like I knew that about you. And isn't that funny? Like, I wonder what it is about like the teenage years and poetry. Like, it's interesting that like I wrote poetry when I was really young and you wrote it when you were young, but it doesn't sound like you do as much now. So,
I tried to eventually kind of convert it into like lyrics. So
yeah.
I still write, but it's a lot less. Instead of it just being like focused on the writing part, it's like if I come up with a song, like the music, the melody, and everything, the lyrics are usually the last part, and it's a lot harder for me, which is I think just because I don't do it as much. Like in certain ways, it's easier because I used to do it, but in some ways, it's like if you don't do it consistently, you're not as sharp as it. Like your vocabulary. If I don't read every day, my vocabulary starts going downhill. I start saying dude and bro like way more than I should.
Those are great words. So I use those every day.
I'm like, bro, dude. Um, uh, So like what other like art forms are you into?
I mean, that's such a loaded question because
I know. I know.
art is, for me, art is, I don't know, it sounds weird, cliche, corny. It's like art is like everywhere. It's like lots of things to me. So like for me, art is like cooking and baking. Like I see that as like art, like I don't know, art is interesting. I looked up the meaning of of the word recently, and then I got to thinking like that it really can mean different things to different people. But I think my artistic nature is in writing. And it's interesting when I say writing, I actually usually just, I wish I like actually wrote pen to paper more often. I need to do that, but I'll have a thought and I'll just write it. I say write it. I'll put it in my notes in my phone. And so I have a lot of stuff in my notes, and I would like to do something with everything I've written or lots of the stuff. So I hope and plan to, but it's like I could get real deep on it. I really just feel like art is kind of like what you want it, what you make it, if that makes sense. I don't know. So,
Yeah, I know. Um, yeah, I agree. It's like any form of, I mean, I kind of look at it as like any form of expression,
mm-hmm.
like whether it be like, whatever emotion you're feeling, it could be like you're saying, like I didn't even think about the cooking aspect, but that's totally art. Um, yeah, I remember getting into art as a teenager, but at the same time I was real stubborn because I felt like it was like my personal expression, but I felt like I didn't relate to other people that were into art. Does that make sense? I
Yeah,
felt like maybe I think I was just really bitter. And so I was like constantly writing about stuff that was very personal um and then I'd get something finished and then I wouldn't show it to anybody. That's things I had like one of my teachers called me a closet writer because I would do projects and stuff and she would be like, "You write on the side, don't you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Yeah, I can tell." Like this, and but yeah, I miss it because when I used to write on a basis, it felt it was very therapeutic. It was very like you're putting thoughts and emotions to words and paper, and it was a little bit of an outlet so that it's in the paper now, it's not stuck in me anymore. Um and
absolutely. Yeah.
and then it felt kind of like um the balance of like writing it compared to saying it. And then I think music was the I got so into music because to me it was like the ultimate expression of the words I was writing. Um, and yeah, I'm hoping to get, more into it here in the next few months. Um, so let me see what else I have. Oh yeah, you've talked to me before that you like that you have certain like podcasts you like to listen to and like what do you have anything like what are you into, Kaitlin?
Well,
Loaded
I
question.
very, yeah, right. I mean, I just love learning about lots of things, but I like psychology and just, I don't know, understanding people and the way they think and why they do what they do, just psychology type things. And I love like, you know, self-help type stuff. I've always kind of been into, to some extent, like self-help. Um and yeah, so I would say I like learning about um myself. I like learn in terms of like like inner child stuff and childhood things. And then like I like learning about just different types of people. And oh, of course, personality types. You already know this, right?
Yeah, we've
Personality
talked
types.
about this.
Oh yeah, like I'm I've kind of calmed myself a little bit on it, but I I like asking people, sometimes what their personality type is. And um although now, like now that I have learned more about like certain psychology things and stuff, like I can really pick up on maybe like certain personality types pretty quickly, but definitely the more introverted personality types, um, I feel like I relate pretty well. I mean, I can relate to like everyone, like a lot of people in some sense, I feel like, because I can see things from a lot of different perspectives and all that. But like more introverted types or deep thinker types, I feel like I relate pretty well to.
Um, yeah, that's pretty interesting. Like I have interest in psychology and you know, philosophy as well. Just trying to figure out the human mind, figure out why we're here, why we do things. Um, like when you talk about being introverted, um, it's kind of interesting because it's such a balance with being introverted. Because like sometimes I would feel um, like personally in certain arrangements, uh, I'm very, very social. I can be very sarcastic. I've had friends tell me they used to want to bring me to parties because I'm really good at creating conversations and um, joking around and having a lot of topics to talk about. I mean, this podcast isn't a good example, um, but at the same time, like I also get stuck in my own head and my own, what I'm thinking about, and I can kind of like get really introverted and just basically like not, kind of close up, not really want to trust having those conversations. Um, I was watching, or no, I wasn't watching. I was reading these books a couple years back, and it was talking about human like depression, and
Mm-hmm.
it was throwing out these theories that basically um that humans used to like spend most of their day, like they would hunt, gather food, um like a small portion of the day, and then the rest of the day they would just be social. They'd be social, they'd enjoy nature, they would just basically have fun. And that during that era they had very, very low uh signs of like depression or like
Mm.
mental illness. But then as we developed like agriculture and trying to control our food supply and everything, we started coming up with jobs and everything. Like it made things easier for us on a like we have our food, we have our comforts, but it also took up so much of our time that we don't spend as much time being social with each other, being around nature as much. And therefore it's like um as a species, we're like developing mental illness and we're trying to medicate that mental illness. We're trying to do, we get off work and we come home and what do we try to do? We try to entertain ourselves, watching somebody else's life, essentially,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
um, trying to squeeze the last 2 hours of our day. We try to squeeze all the emotions that we're ignoring the 8 hours a day we work. And we're self-medicating, because we're, trying to, it's like with any species. You throw any species in a weird situation, and they're going to develop, illnesses or adapt to it. And I don't know. I often think about that sometimes when I'm like getting caught up being too introverted and being like too antisocial. I think about how much of society we live in kind of, contributes to that.
No, I totally, I haven't really known that, like everything you explained exactly. And it, it really, it resonates, that makes a lot of sense. It's pretty nuts. Right. Yeah. The word, right when you said job, I was like, yeah, boo.
Yeah.
um,
Boo.
um, but yeah, that's very interesting. And it's also interesting that we most people know a lot of people, and there's like of course social media, which is kind of anti-social media because it's not real life. It's just not the same. So that's really interesting, the way things used to be and the way things are now and mental health now. Yeah, I'd be interested in learning more about that. That's really kind of fascinating, kind of interesting.
Well, I mean, you just mentioning social media, like I didn't even think about mentioning that. I mean, that's a new thing, and it's like I think there's a certain levels of people getting social anxieties because they communicate so much via computer, via messenger, via whatever, that they no longer have phone conversations, they no longer have in-person conversations, and then um it's like it's a tool that's supposed to help us socialize, but I think it's making it more awkward for us, and it's making us more divided, and it's like taking away the uh what would be the word for it? Um it's making it less personal. Does that make
I,
sense?
I totally agree. I totally agree. It's um yeah, I think you hit it right on with that. Yeah.
Somebody, I think it might have been, was I talking to Holland? I can't remember who I was talking to. It was somebody recently was talking to me about how, like, when we worked at the movie theater, like, like why do I keep in touch with all these people from that job? And I mean, I keep in touch with people from my healthcare job and other jobs I've had, but primarily the movie theater. And I
Hmm.
think part of it was because it was the era where most people didn't have cell phones yet. And so without cell phones to, distract us, we were actually forced to talk to each other and actually like engage with each other more on a social level. And then pretty much every job I've had after that, it's like if I don't like my coworker, I'm just on my cell phone. If I don't want to, if I don't have any immediate interest in talking to so and so, I'm just, we have my cell phone or, hopping on Facebook or something. And um yeah, maybe that's just like the last era of time frame where people were being personal with each other.
Yeah, I mean, I have just the most amazing memories of I'm so freaking grateful and thankful that we were in that um last whatever generation era of um no cell phones because yeah, I didn't get had my like cool pink razor when I was like, oh, probably not till 19 or 20. Um and I just remember maybe some vague, some better memories, but I just have great memories of actually really interacting with people and being there, being present, like laughing, like just really being with people on such a level. And now things are just so different. And I mean, I think to some extent, like most people are like addicted to their phone to some extent. I know I don't have like many vices at all, but like my phone, I'm probably not the best with my phone and stuff like that. And so I am thankful though that I had such a chunk of time to really be present. And I definitely wish that I could be more present now. And I wish the world was more present, but I can't control the world. I can just control me. So,
Mm-hmm. I think we were talking the other day about driving, about like anxieties and stuff while driving, and like I was telling you before about how you know when I first had my driver's license and I first got comfortable to drive around like on my own and just do whatever, it was like I would just drive and listen to music. I had a CD player and I was just putting CDs in and out, like and just um I'd drive around like in the middle of the night. I'd drive out to the sunrose. I'd find like lookout points, all sorts of stuff. I never had a phone during any of that, and I never had that fear in my head. Like, what if your car breaks down, or what if, I just never had that fear. I just was like, hey, I'll just, because I had nothing to relate it to. There was no um point. And but after I got my cell phone, it became something where like I go to the store nearby and I forget my cell phone. I'm like, oh, I don't have my cell phone. This is a really high anxiety situation. What if something happens and I don't have my phone? Or like checking your emails, another one.
mm-hmm.
Like like nowadays I feel like I have to check it like every day or every 2 days or something. And like I did not care back then. I was like, oh, somebody sent me an email. Well, I'll probably get to it in a month. Like I'm not gonna
Yeah. Yeah.
um so let me see. So what are some of your plans, I guess, in the future? Like what are some things I think you said something about like wanting to help people or something before, or something on the level of that, or
Yeah. I'm not really sure. I'm really I'm really just excited about the future. Do I know exactly what it's going to look like? No. My my oldest son, um, is he'll be 17 August 22nd. Freaking nuts. And he is so smart. He is like an entrepreneur and like he's really smart. And so if I want help with anything, job wise, career wise, like skill wise, um, like he could help me. And it's nuts. I'm like almost 39 and he's almost 17, and I have a lot of wisdom on him, but he has certain things definitely on me. So I'm not really sure. I definitely have a passion for like people, helping people, um, definitely just lots, like children, helping women, like all kinds of stuff. So I'm not really sure what exactly I'm gonna do with that, but yeah, it'll be interesting.
um. So here's a random question: if you could visit three places in the world, where would you want to visit?
Oh my goodness. I don't really I it's funny, I don't really think about that. But I will say that like if I had unlimited money, so I'm just not the type of person. I mean, the reason that I would want tons of money is just it would bring me freedom. That's literally the reason I'd want money. Uh,
Mhm.
that's all. But if I had unlimited money, I would, I guess, okay, if didn't have any kids, because it's hard to travel with little kids, but I would just be like traveling, seeing things. That just sounds amazing. What an amazing life that would be. Um, and this is coming from someone who's introverted, like, but I still love to, I mean, the thought of like seeing beautiful places like all the time, um, that would be so cool. So three places. Oh my goodness. I'm not really sure. I
It's
feel
okay.
like
You can tap out if you can't come up with anything.
I feel like I'd want to choose somewhere like beautiful that's like in Europe, but I don't really know where. Like I'm sure like Ireland would be beautiful. I'm sure like like Italy would be beautiful. And then of course somewhere warm and tropical, but I don't know, it's like I don't know where the best place would be. I haven't been to that many places. I've been to Honolulu, Maui, Boca Raton, Florida, and Disneyland, San Juan Islands. I haven't been to that many places, I feel like. So I should ask you. You obviously, I feel like you're gonna know the answer because you're asking me.
Well, I mean, I don't know your answer.
Well, I know, but what would your three
I
places what would your three places be?
oh um crap. So like I mean, a couple things I thought when I was younger was places that like when I would read, um, I became really interested in Alaska from reading like Jack London books, and um, I always wanted to go up and see the aurora borealis and stuff. And I've had this idea for a long time about at some point saving enough money to like rent like a little place for like 6 months or so up in Alaska and just go up there and just write, just kind of like lock myself away and just like write and see what I can come up with, like writing wise or music wise. But because sometimes I think if you force yourself like certain levels of isolation, as long as it's not too unhealthy, you can hit extra levels of creativity. You really tap into certain things. Like I think a lot of the art that I like the best that I've created, I was very isolated. Like I was very reclusive at the time. Um So yeah, Alaska would be up there. Ireland would probably be up there. That's a good answer from you. I didn't even think about Ireland. I had some interest because my last name being Ryan. I don't know how much Irish I am, but Ryan is an Irish last name. So I've always wanted to go over there, and every time I see photos over there, it just looks beautiful. Um, and I've heard really good stuff about it. And then yeah, the third one would probably be something similar to what you're talking about, like some sort of tropical island or something. Um, I like seeing palm trees. I like seeing like just the different environment. Um, I used to have uh Arizona on my list when I was a teenager because
Mm.
uh so I think it's certain times of the year. It's supposedly one of the states where like when it's like February or November, it's like the best spot to like stargaze.
Mm.
And I used to be really into astronomy. I've kind of gotten out of it over the years, but I hope to get back into it. Um but yeah, I used to love just sitting with headphones and it's like looking at the sky for like hours. Um or staring at the ocean. I think that's the other spot. Uh, but yeah, you flipped the question back on me, and I wasn't prepared, even though it was my question. Um, I was thinking what you meant was if I remembered what your three picks were like in the past because of my memory. I was like, no, I
Oh
don't
no.
remember.
Uh-uh.
Uh, I'm trying to think of what else I have on. I wrote all this stuff down before, and I'm going through it. I feel a little bit like a Zach Galifianakis when he does that like between two ferns show. I feel kind of like that right now. So what are so like if you had to pick uh living near the ocean or living near like the mountains, what would you pick?
Ocean. Like
Okay.
right when you said ocean, it's like, I don't know what else you're gonna say, but is there another option? Because I don't feel like there is. The ocean, yes.
Ocean. Okay. Trying to get any other weird questions I have. Do you have a favorite book you had growing up or a couple books you
Oh
liked?
gosh. Um, I am not sure. I mean, I used to be a reader, not as much anymore, just because of my how my life is and the chaos and stuff of my life and the busyness, that happens with lots, mostly everyone. But I as a young child, like when I was young, I used to love the book I'll Love You Forever. I mean, it gets me in my feels just thinking about it. Do you remember that book?
Mm-mm.
Um, so it was I it goes like I love you forever, I'll like you for always, as long as I'm living, my baby you'll be. And so at the beginning of the book, um, it's like a kid's book. It's like a book you would read to your baby or child or whatever, like at night or whatever. And um in the beginning of the book, I think the dad is reading to his child. And by the end of the book, oh my gosh, I don't remember how it goes. By the end of the book, yeah, I don't even remember. But it was just one of those books that it's definitely a classic. So, Rob, kids,
It sounds familiar.
if you had kids, you would probably know of the book. And anyone who's watching or listening to this right now, I feel like some people are going to know what book I'm talking about.
So it's just kind of like a pretty well known like children's book.
Yeah, it's just really sweet. It just really attests to the the love between, you know, a parent and a child. It's just, yeah, it really stands out to me.
Um kind of like I'll have to look up that book. What's it called again?
I think it's called I'll Love You Forever, or I think it's I'll Love You Forever, or I Love You Forever, something like that.
Um you're talking about like not reading as much nowadays. I go through like phases. I've been working on the same book for like 2 years. I'll pick it up and read it a bunch for like a month and then not pick it up for a month and but then like 2 years ago I read like eight books in a couple months, and I don't know. It just kind of it's almost like a forced habit I have to push on myself. Um, there's a lot of things that when we're younger, uh, I mean, just like stuff like cursive. Do you remember how to write in cursive?
Oh my goodness. Oh, oh man. It just brings me back to my heart and soul. Cursive. Man, I remember cursive. Yeah, I remember writing in cursive and I still remember how to write in cursive. Do you remember how to write in cursive?
I remember, but I don't ever do it.
And they
Um,
don't teach it anymore, do they?
I
I
don't
don't
think
think
so.
they do. Oh, that's kind of like a bummer. Oh, it's like such like a beautiful art form. But it makes sense that they wouldn't teach it, I guess, because things are different. Times are changing, you know.
Now it's just like text abbreviations for everything. Like there's not even like communication has changed so much. It used to be like someone would send you like a well-written, cursive letter. And now it's just like text messages or emails and everything abbreviated or what's the word for it? Um, yeah. Did you ever?
They probably teach you emojis nowadays. I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
even
that's
know.
what I was meaning. Probably emojis.
Yeah.
It's some advanced civilization is going to stumble upon humans and be like, what happened? They went from this to emojis, like like our version of hieroglyphics.
Yeah.
Um, so did you ever write letters when you were younger?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I still have um some letters from um like me and my friends. Uh and of course we our version of text messages when like you and I were in school is
Mm-hmm.
like just writing notes and like passing them to our friends like in class, like I feel
Mm-hmm.
like or yeah, like the OG text message. Like nowadays I always think like my grandma writes me letters and you speak of cursive, totally in cursive, and she's obviously older and I can barely read her writing, but like I always want to write cards and thank you cards and I used to be way better at it. But nowadays we're just in this day and age of like quick and easy and quick
Yeah.
email and voice message. You know what I mean? So it kind of sucks in a way because I feel like I am fairly patient, but it's like a time issue, a patience issue maybe, or just like a this day and age like a attention issue. I don't know, but yeah, like letters. Do you have letters from back in the day from like your friends or old girlfriends or anything like that?
Yeah, I had a few friends back in the day that used to like we'd write letters back and forth, and I kept like I think most of those letters. Like I just thought it was like, it's a cool sentimental little time capsule. Um
Hey, I have a question. Did you get letters that were like folded up all like awesome? Like, do you know what I'm talking about?
like back in school, like when people
Yeah.
would go do all the weird like almost origami folding it up. Uh
Yeah.
I did sometimes. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Do you remember the I don't know what it was called, where you take the paper and you fold it up. I don't know what it was called. Do you remember like what was it? Was it like a game that we used a piece of paper and it was like folded up into like these
No, they have
I
numbers and you'd like move the numbers back and forth, and it was supposed to be like I don't even remember how to play the game, but I remember that.
Yep. Oh my gosh. I just randomly thought of that when we were talking about. Okay. That's awesome. That was a good memory.
I have so like I think it was last year I was looking through I have like a suitcase of like old personal stuff I've kept. And I was looking through it the other day or last year, and I found a letter from it was from a girl that I was friends with very, very briefly on a band a page of a band, but it was like their message forum, and she was from Pakistan, and she wrote me a happy birthday letter, and like with did some like art stuff on it, and I was like, I mean, I kept it from back things I thought was cool, but I hadn't looked at that stuff in forever, and I was like, wow, like that's so, some people were so thoughtful, like to do that kind of stuff. Like I don't really know this person, and they sent me a letter from all the way in Pakistan. Um, I mean, emails are nice, but it's like we eventually delete them. It's like um, even like life journal stuff. You see the it pop up. Like every year, there's like certain anniversary posts that'll pop up, but it just doesn't feel like, I don't know. Whenever I get off social media, I end up feeling like I'm strengthening the rest of my being.
No,
And
I know what you mean. I need to do that. I totally know what you mean. Yeah.
but then you also lose touch with people that you wouldn't normally keep in touch with. Um, but
Yeah.
did you have anything you wanted to talk about, or questions, or
Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Um, I feel like you might have touched. Okay, I'm gonna tell you my impression of, not my impression. I'm not gonna do an impression of you. That'd be really weird. I wouldn't be very good at that.
I want to
But
see it now.
no. Uh, but I'll tell you like my impression of you, like vibes from you, like from, like when I first met you. Not that I have that particular memory, I guess. And maybe you can tell me. I feel like you told me recently or something, but from just like the theater. But I feel like you were really quite like, I felt like my impression of you, obviously different people know you in different ways, but you were pretty, I felt like you were more quiet, and you had this stare about you, and maybe you still do, but you would like have this stare about you. You would like stare at people, or I don't know. It was like, were you trying to read them? Were you trying to intimidate them? Not really sure. I'm sure you weren't trying to intimidate them, uh, but knowing you now, if anything, I would guess you were just trying to get a read on somebody, maybe knowing what I know about you. And then you were very like sarcastic in this like dark way. I think that would be the best way to explain it. Um, and I feel like yeah, it was weird. It was almost um, like loner, no offense, like loner vibes, but you weren't a loner. Like you totally talked to people and were cool with people. Um, but yeah, that was, these were like the vibes I got. And this was like me not like knowing you or whatever. Yeah. So what would you say about me when I was a little youngster at the
um,
theater?
well, okay. First off, I want to respond to what you just said. So
Okay. Okay.
the stare thing. Um, I started that at the end of my high school years to troll people, to kind of
Okay.
like, I would do this stare thing, like I had an issue with them, but I wouldn't have an issue. It was just something I did, and then and it carried over to the theater. Once I was more comfortable with the theater, I would do that to people, especially like if it was like somebody that was new. It was my way of like messing with them. Like when uh you remember Eric Anderson? Like when
Yeah.
I first worked with him, like I was friends with Holland pretty quick, but Eric, I wouldn't talk to him, and I would just stare at him until he got uncomfortable, and he'd go, "Why are you staring at me?" And then I would like storm off, or I'd make some like really like dark sarcastic comment. And then I did this for a while just to like I don't know, I was in character a lot at the movie theater. It was kind of how I dealt with things, but I still do that today. I still do that with some of my coworkers at the vitamin place. Like there's a couple older ladies that are like in their 60s, and I'll just kind of stare at them, and it's they know I'm playing, but I'll act like I'm mad, or I'm like there's a big issue going on. But yeah, my I guess my impression of you when you first started was like I've said before, how Jordan was like, hey, like I remember Jordan saying something to me about like, hey, can you kind of watch out for my sister? So I think
Oh,
I think I had this like early on impression of like that's Jordan's little sister, like make sure no one picks on her. Um, but you seemed very, very how could I put it? Um, you seemed innocent, but you seemed very, very how could I'm trying to think how to put it. You were very real. Like some people are um like they have like a arrogance to them or a snottiness. You were just genuinely nice to people. And I remember the longer I was around you at the theater, thinking like, because early on I was like, um, you kind of seemed like a tiny Barbie doll. No offense, like you were just like, and you driving that car just added to the kind of like this little bit of a stereotype. But then the longer like I was, around you, I was like, you just seemed like a very nice person, and it was like you were genuinely nice, and you were like I don't ever remember you being mean or catty or having any which is kind of, to be honest, it's kind of rare. A lot of people get real jealous and catty and fight, and I don't remember you ever saying anything bad about anybody. Um but yeah, I mean I thought highly of you. I didn't talk to you much, but didn't you work box office most of the time or concession?
I would say concessions, uh, the bulk of the time is probably where they put me. I think I would have preferred, I think my number one would have been box, but I don't know that maybe I wasn't like a box expert or whatever, but yeah.
I don't remember you ushering very often. I'm sure you did, but I just
Um,
don't remember it.
yeah, it was definitely cool to have the have those three positions, like variety is like the spice of life, So that's cool. But I have to say that's really nice what you said. Um, yeah, that's really cool. I appreciate that. And like it's so interesting because, I don't remember, it's not like I remember how I was or how I acted or, you know, but it's always interesting, like it was like a bajillion years ago. So it's
Hmm.
kind of interesting to hear like that stuff. And it's like that you said such nice stuff about me. Now I feel bad. I'm like, well, he just stares at people and um so now I'm a freaking jerk. No, but obviously I didn't like really know you. But then again, you were like a seasoned pro at the theater. And so like when you were already like you knew everybody, when I started. And then there's me and I was like, like a newbie, but it's kind of interesting and kind of cool to like hear about your perception of me then. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's it's funny because I'll have people ask me questions about them at the movie theater, and I'll be able to answer questions about like I even have friends that like a good friend of mine, Dallas, will like he'll ask me questions about how he was in junior high and high school, and I go, "Don't you remember?" And he goes, "I don't remember very well," and I'll tell him a bunch of stories about stuff he did back then, and then he'll like get in a good mood and be like, "I was really funny back then," and I go, "Yeah, back then," and we
Mm.
troll each other. But it's like, yeah, I don't know why I have such a like specific memory on things. And it's not even. I had a buddy of mine got in an argument with his wife on what day of the week their kid was born, and the kid was like 12 at the time or something, and he called me up and it was on speakerphone, and he goes, "You got to tell my wife what day of the week was our daughter born," and I go, "It was on a Sunday." And he started laughing, and she was like, "How does he remember that? How does he remember?" And he goes, "Rob, how do you remember?" And I told him the football game that me and him were supposed to watch the day
Oh,
of, and he was like, "I told you, Rob's had this memory since we were kids. Like he just, but yeah, uh, yeah, that's funny. That's funny. The when you said the staring thing, it's completely spot on because I've had so many people. There was one time, I think it was summer of 2001. So it was before you started there. There
Yeah.
was several of us that went out to Sherry's because it became a routine to go to Sherry's, and none of us were really drinkers at the time. And there was like three newer people all at Sherry's, and one of them, there was like nine of us there or something. We were in one of those big corner booths. And one of them goes, "Rob, can I ask you a question?" I was like, "Yeah." And they go, "Why do you always like stare at me like you're mad and like and you curse like you start cursing like curse words under your breath or like you'll say like." And then the two other new people were like, "He does that to you too?" And then all three of them realized that I'd been doing it to all of them. And then one of the people I'd worked with longer, like Garrick or somebody, was like, "He does that to everybody when they start. He tries to like he just messes with people all the time." Um, I
I
mean,
feel like you like I remember your stare, and it was literally like you were plotting someone's death. Like it was like a death stare.
I
Legit. Yeah.
I had created this stare that looked like I was like really like aggressive, and I used to do it. I used to do it to do you remember Troy?
Yeah.
I used to do it to Troy a lot, and he would like look back at me and start doing it back to me, and then eventually he'd laugh and he goes, "This is a bunch of shit," and like he'd um I did it to Charlie Olson like early on when I'd work with him. He'd crack up, but it was just like a thing I did.
Yeah.
Uh, I didn't mean any harm, and it is sarcastic as I was. I think I would feel bad if I actually hurt someone's feelings.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny how like just the jobs we remember. So like how long did you work at 24 Hour Fitness?
Let's see. I worked there. I feel like I got fired from there. Why did I get fired? I don't know. Um, but let's see. I worked at 24 Hour Fitness like a year or something. I worked at the one on Fourth Plain that I think at the time there was a club right next door or like a bar or something, and I wasn't 21 or anything, um but yeah, it was a pretty short time. Yeah.
And I always thought you worked at but no, I guess that was a Bally's that was by the theater, wasn't it?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, Trying to think. So you worked at that job for a little bit, and then you mentioned, oh yeah, another job, right?
Well, I mean, after the gym, I'm pretty sure that's
Oh
when I
yeah, the
got my
apartment stuff, right?
yeah, I moved to it was called Orchard Point at the time. It's definitely called something else now, but it was off of 112th, like behind 112th towards like Burton area. And I moved in. I remember I had a one bedroom for pretty sure it was $535 a month. Cute little one bedroom. And like red.
What a steal that would be today.
Oh my goodness. So cool. Yeah, so I was like lived by myself, and then I must have just found out about the job like by going in to pay rent. Um they probably told me about it or something because I got like a rent discount, and so yeah, that's where I started kind of my sales. I was mostly in property management for like lots of years.
Do you miss that at all, or just kind of?
So hell no. But I like I said, variety is the spice of life for me. And like, so one thing I did like about it, like I think for me personally, a job that where I had to sit, if I had to sit on my freaking keister for like 10 hours, 8 hours, whatever, and just to like type at a computer for like all day, that would just sound like death kind of to me. So the nice thing about it was like variety. Like I got to like it's weird. I guess I am introverted, but I got to like deal with some people and then get up and show like apartments, and I love like real estate, and I can see the good in anything. and it's a curse and a blessing. And so, but it was helpful when you're selling something, when your job is to sell something, um, and point out the good and blah 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 blah. So I just really love the variety, um, is what I would say. But in general, I mean, it's like stressful, and any job that has like a sales quota, um, like I'll take a pass on that. That's a lot for me. Like, yeah, I would say so.
Um,
Have you ever had a job where you had like a sales quota or anything like that?
I told you I used to sell cars, didn't I? Or
I don't. You probably did, but I my memory sucks sometimes. So yeah.
yeah, it was a fluke situation. It was a I was doing in-home care at the time, and a high school friend had he was like co-owner of some newer dealership, and he asked me if I could help him like one day a week to kind of move cars around. So I thought I was just kind of helping his business, helping a friend for one day a week, and then it turned into like he thought I was better at doing it than the current people he had staffed, so he started asking me to do it 2 days a week. So I was doing both jobs, and then uh one day he was out of town and they were really low staffed, and they needed to show a car to sell. So he asked me, he goes, "Hey, would you sell a car? Would you try to, show the car?" I told him, I go, "I'm not a salesman. I do not like the salesman attitude. Like, I do not like to pressure people." I go, I'll do it, but you have to let me do it my way. And so
Mm-hmm.
he goes, "Okay." And so I sold the car and showed it and sold it. And then the guy, I guess, told my friend that like he thought I was a really good salesman. And he said I was like one of the most on, or did he say I was the most honest salesman he's ever met? I can't remember, it was something like that. And
Oh.
then they asked me if I would, would be interested in selling more cars, and I said whatever to help the business, but as long as I'm able to do it my way, which was like a no pressure. Like, I would show the card, I would joke with the customer, I would, and it kind of went to where I got to hire my own team. I got in charge of a lot of stuff, and I was the senior sales guy, which is super goofy. And then I want to say about 9 months into the job or something, or a year into the job, they ended up bringing in some big guy who had worked at 10 other dealerships and said he can increase the revenue and everything. And he came in, and the first thing he did was um, he yelled at everybody. He
Oh.
made me hang up the phone. He like knocked someone's drink off the counter. It was so goofy. and he made us watch Glenn Ross and Boiler Room.
Oh my gosh.
And it became so douchey so quick. And
Yeah.
I was like, I quit shortly after that. I go, yeah, I'm not doing this shit. I'm not gonna start trying to scam people and start. He bragged about selling a car to a lady, like tricking her into buying a car without her husband there. Because she kept saying, "Well, me and my husband have to talk about it," and he kept saying,
Mm-hmm.
"What, does he make all the decisions? Are you not strong enough and stuff?" And then
Oh my
talked her into
gosh.
signing the paperwork, and then he said that the husband came back later pissed, and he had security like rough up the husband or something. But he was bragging about the story, and I was like, "Dude, that's not how you do business. That's not how you don't quickly scam and get the sale. And it should be the overall experience is good, and then word of mouth, people recommend." But yeah, I did not like sales. So that was a long story to simply tell you I did not like doing sales. I don't like um yeah, even at the theater, like toward, concessions. Like,
Oh, candy combos,
yeah.
right?
Oh my gosh. Remember they started doing the thing, I think this is towards the end when I worked there, but they had a thing where if the person in concessions did not ask you about our candy combo deal, then you get like a free something. And I still wouldn't ask them, and they'd bring it up to me, and I go, "Oh, okay, yeah, I guess if you want to get me in trouble, that's fine. I can get my manager." I go, and I'd tell him, I go, "But I mean, to be honest, I just didn't want to bug you. I didn't want to like harass you." And every single time the person was like, "Oh, you get in trouble if I say something?" I go, "Yeah, but it's okay." And then they go, "Well, I don't want to get you in trouble." And um I just hated selling stuff.
Yeah, but you know what? You probably did well with your being a car salesman. Am I right?
I did, but the thing was I just was very upfront with people, and
Yeah.
I think it was more because I was able to be personable.
Yes.
Like one of the things I'd say to people was like, um, that I'm not a huge car guy, and I tell them I go, yeah, if my car was a horse, the horse died a long time ago. Like I would just make these comments, and but I just was real. I would explain how we got the cars, why we were selling them at that price, what kind of negotiation we were able to do. Um, and I was just real friendly to people, not pressuring them. And um, yeah, I don't know how many cars I sold. They actually wanted to do a commission for me. They wanted me to be commission based,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't want to be motivated by commission based. I said just pay me a couple extra dollars an hour, um, and then just have no commission. So instead of getting a big chunk of money for every car I sold, I just made a slightly higher rate. Because I said I don't want to have that. I don't want to have that as my motivation. My motivation is the customer happy, the business happy. Um, Therefore I'm happy. Um, but yeah, and
Well,
that's
I can see you doing well at it because it's sales is so interesting because it's like a lot of it is you legit like selling yourself because if they like you, if they resonate with you, if they connect with you, that is like such a big part of the whole thing. I mean,
mm,
yes, the car and whatever they're buying, of course, but like if you're their first point of contact, and if they like you, um, and then some people with that good sense of like, is this person like a genuine person? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
can see you, I can see you doing pretty well. So it's one of those things where if you are more of like a real person, people, some people will definitely connect with that. But then again, still it's like it's hard because like I feel like you're an honest person and like I'm definitely an honest person and then some of sales is like it's like they is dishonesty, some of
yeah.
it. So it's difficult, yeah.
One of my favorite things at that car dealership job was if other car dealerships would call because dealerships would trade with each other. So if
Yeah.
I had to talk to another like car salesman from another dealership and they'd call and be like, "Hey, so what kind of deal can you give me for this?" And I'd be like, I can't really do anything." Like I love to like just be a jerk to other car salesmen because I just so many of them were just like not good people. Like I remember being in situations where like multiple people would be sitting around bragging about hiding money from their wives or like people they hang
Oh,
out with that weren't, like I heard so many douchey conversations. Like that's part of the reason I even got out of it was because I just got to where I was like, dude, I don't know, I can't be around this. The owner of the first company that I worked for, because I did it twice. I did it for a year and then quit and then came back for a different company. But the original co-owner, but the original like person who financed behind it, not my friend, but the other person, was a really good, solid dude. I really liked him, and I actually wanted to. I hadn't worked there in a lot of years, but thought about reaching out to him to see how he's doing in life, and I found out he passed away, and it was like
oh,
he was only 52.
oh.
Um, but I don't know. Like I think you would do well in sales for like a similar reason. You're very personable when you want to be.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I would have to if I really believed in the product or whatever I was selling, then I think I would do well. But that's just me. Like I would really have to believe in it for sure.
When I would assume that like the concessions was probably one of your first like sales opportunities, I guess. Did you have anything beforehand or
Not sales wise, no, because before the theater, I was a cashier at high school pharmacy. that was my first job. And then I was a busser at Cactus Yaya, like 12,000 other people in Vancouver. They like went through people like crazy. I did not last there because you had to be like really fast. Like, anyways, I think I was a busser for that before the theater. But yeah, the theater would have been my first, I guess, job where I had to like essentially ask people to like, buy something extra or whatever. Yeah.
Did you ever have any like bad customer interactions that stuck out to you?
I don't think I don't. There's nothing that sticks out at the theater that, I mean, like I said, my memory compared to your memory is like absolutely no freaking comparison. But I don't think I have anything that sticks out. No.
Well, that's good. I have a that job, like, that was my first. I was a paper boy when I was like in high school or when I was 15. Um, but the theater was my first real job, if you could call it a real job. But um, it really opened my eyes to where how people mistreat each other. Like I went into it with this like naive perception of like you work hard, you get a paycheck, you treat each other well. And very quickly in that job, I realized that it's not how it works. There's all sorts of politics in it. Um, there's a lot of egos involved. Certain people given certain amount of power, we abuse it. Certain people are mean to customers. Certain customers are mean to workers. It's like, um, I don't know. It kind of like gave me a very sour taste in my mouth for like customer service jobs, and so I never pursued anything like that after the theater.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I know that I've always been a sensitive person, so I bet you there were many situations where, in the moment, I'm sure certain customers got to me, but thankfully, nothing that scarred me for life or anything.
Well, yeah, and you're working with people, so you get attached to the people you work with. And then if you
Hmm.
see somebody like mistreating them, you want to be like protective. You want
Mm.
to say something. And there was a couple times I did say something. Um, and yeah, I wouldn't get away with it now, but I got away with it then. Um, it did so if you were gonna go out and go job hunting now, what kind of field would you aim for?
Um,
Would be the perfect Kaitlin career?
well, I don't know what I would be qualified for at this point. So being a stay-at-home mom for, I don't know, so like what, over 8 years. Um, like there's the jobs I would love to have are jobs that I would need some sort of uh schooling or very technical training or things like that. Like I would love I would love to work with um women. I would love to work at like with like abused women at some sort of like shelter, something like that. Like I don't exactly qualify. I could definitely get into some sort of like addiction. There's some things I could probably get
Like
into to help
counselor kind of
people.
thing? The addiction counselors?
Yeah. So like for example, my personality type, I'm an INFJ, and there's many INFJs that
I'm
are
gonna have to look that up.
oh
INF.
yeah, INFJ. So we are known as like the counselor. And so a lot of INFJs are actual therapists or counselors. Can I see myself going through 4 to 6 years of schooling at this point in my life? Yikes. I know I could do it. It sounds very grueling with, 4 children and stuff, um, but just the thought of helping someone in a vulnerable state that really needs help
Hmm.
would be like amazing.
I've thought about doing counseling. I've had a few people tell me that they thought I would be a good counselor. Um,
I agree. Yeah.
but it's hard when you're working full time and you're trying to figure out your schedule and everything. Um, I definitely have schooling back, on the agenda. Um, if I could go back, I totally would have went to school in my early 20s, late teens. I kept putting it off. I kept saying, "Nah, I'll do it later. I'll do it later." And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're working full time, and you're like, you don't have extra time. And um, there was a balance for a lot of years where either I would have to work overtime to afford to live by myself, or I would work the normal amount of hours, would have a roommate, and a lot of those roommates would be sour, and then I'd end up like in a bad situation. So it's like getting some sort of stability and going back to school, and right now I think something like a 2 year, finding a job that requires something that's only 2 years of schooling might be like the first goal, and then branch off from there. Get whatever job that is through a 2 year degree, and then branch off. I originally wanted to be an RN, but after working in healthcare for a while, it's like it's such a thankless job. And if you are compassionate for people, so many of these companies will just take advantage of you and overwork you and
Hmm.
try to, and then people get callous, and then they don't care as much. And I don't know. I really liked the idea of healthcare. I really, wanted to help people, and I still do, but try to figure out a better way.
Well, you hit it right on with like um getting school like out of the way when obviously we can't go back in time. We don't have a time machine, but like uh doing school when you're younger, because I tried schooling when I was two times when I was younger. But I wish I would have maybe like gone off to a 4 year, maybe that would have worked better for me, going off to a 4 year like university, like going away. I mean, ultimately, I think my ADD was absolutely an issue, absolutely for sure. But um, I wasn't, I wasn't motivated enough. I didn't have. It was tough for me because I didn't have a goal. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and so that
Mhm.
can be. I feel like that could be a challenge if you just literally like skip on over to Clark College, but you have no freaking idea what you want to do. I feel like, do you know what I mean? Like that might
Mhm.
be a hindrance, you know?
Yeah. Um, I tried to go, I think in 2002, I tried to go to Clark, and I was there for maybe 3 weeks, and I kind of was going through some emotional stuff. And my only way to really deal with stuff back then was to isolate and work on art. So like whatever time I was spent, trying to go to school, I just couldn't focus. And um, so yeah, I got out of it, and then I got back into it. I want to say 2006. I went to South Puget Sound Community College for like about a month or so, and like not the same thing, but like I ended up needing to work more hours than I thought. And it's like when you have the free time, you're not really doing anything with it, but as soon as that free time gets taken away, all of a sudden you think about all the things you want to do with free time.
Yeah.
Like I was being
Mm-hmm.
lazy about it, but as soon as I didn't, the time was taken away, I was like, hey, this is time I could use to work on art. And
Yeah.
I think I said this to you the other day about how one thing I think that's good about like our generation is that things have kind of changed. Like it used to be, well, I don't know if it's necessarily good, but all of it, but like stuff that like our parents' generation was doing, like they were like getting married really young. They were having kids super young. They were doing all this stuff, and like by the time they were 40, they were like really 40. Like, but our generation, it seems like it's like a younger, it just seems like everything gets pushed back. Like people are buying houses later. People are, and well, that's partly because of the economy, but people are having kids later. People are, so it's like, you know, a lot of people are doing the same activities at the age of 40 that their parents were doing at 28. Or
Mm-hmm.
even like, the culture of like, internet stuff. It just seems like people are living a very younger life than it used to be. And I wish I could go back in time, because I think when I was young, I had all these ideas in my head about like how my parents' life was. And oh, there's a timetable for this. I have to get all this done by the time I'm 25. Like I remember
Yeah.
thinking like I have to have kids and be married by the time I'm 25. Well, that was pretty ridiculous. Like, uh,
Hmm.
and then uh, like listening to, I was listening to a lot of music back in that era, which were, I didn't think about it till much later, but the music you listen to can impact you, like what you're thinking about. Like you talk about wanting to listen to like upbeat stuff. I remember I went through this phase in my early 20s where I was listening to a lot of music from like rockers from the 60s, but it was the stuff they were putting out in the 80s when they were like having midlife crisis and stuff. And
Hmm.
uh and so I was like 21 listening to this music and I started thinking I was having a midlife crisis. Like everything was like really heavy. And if I could go back, I'd be like, dude, you're 21. Shut up. Like, dude, you're
Yeah.
you're you're just you're acting like a brat. Just enjoy being young. Try to be proactive.
Yeah.
You're not 45 and like going through like all these problems.
Yep.
And the flip side is like now that I'm like, I'm 41 right now, like I feel younger. I mean, my body doesn't feel younger, but like I feel like I kind of worked out, all that stuff and um there's an excitement to it. Like when you get to a point where you're feeling, healthier, like on a mental level.
I agree. I agree. I think I'm still like 6 years old in a way, and I also think I'm 16 in a way. So yeah. But then also like with my memory, I'm definitely like at least 90. So yeah.
I felt kind of bad the other day when I was trying to explain that quote from the Peaceful Warrior book. Um, and it was about living in the present. And then it dawned on me, I was like, I don't think Kaitlin really wants to like live in the present right now. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and I
Oh
was
no.
like I meant it differently, but then I thought later on, I was like, I could see how that could be like, if you're in a situation you don't want to be in, you don't want to live in that present. You kind of want to be optimistic of the future.
No, I see what you're saying. It's so funny the way we our minds work because in no way was I like, oh my gosh, Rob is just like so insensitive. I cannot believe he just brought that up. Oh my, you know what I mean? Like, but it's funny because our brains like will say something to somebody and then we'll overthink it in our own minds a little bit maybe, but that person just literally doesn't give a shit. Like
Yeah,
they're good. Yeah.
it's the need for over clarification. It's like, did that make sense? Did that, did I say that correctly? Um,
Yes, but over explaining slash over explaining slash asking people like, does that make sense? Or if that makes sense, like that is borderline like here we go, here's typical Kaitlin, but it's borderline like a trauma response or a response that we're like having to do with our like inner child because I feel the need to over explain very often and I say things all the time like I apologize or I say like if that makes sense, does that make sense? But the freaking reality is that people I talk to, like you and my good friends that I talk to, uh, it freaking makes sense to them because they get me for the most part. You know what I mean? So it's weird the things that we just are accustomed to saying. You know what I mean? Like it's just like habit or whatever.
yeah, no, yeah, totally. Like I had kind of similar things when I was younger. Like there were certain, I'm not going to get too into it, but there were certain situations where I think I was around very aggressive people, and it made me um want to communicate all the more. Because if somebody's aggressive and they don't like to communicate, and you're around it, and you become like almost like traumatized being around it, you end up starting to want to like almost overcompensate by like communicating. Like I mean I used to do a thing where if I had a fight with somebody or there was a disagreement, I would, instead of getting hostile, I would I've only done this a few times, but I would tell the person I'm having a problem with can I buy you dinner? Can I buy you a milkshake? Can I, can we talk? Because it's very I'm not gonna say who it was, but I almost got in a fight with somebody at the elevator at the theater where we were gonna go outside and fight. And then I told the person, I go, here's your options. Whether you go out in the parking lot and I'm gonna kick your ass, or after work, we're gonna go up to Sherry's, I'm gonna buy you a milkshake and we're gonna talk this out. And he picked the milkshake option. And we talked it out and we were like good friends after that.
Oh,
I mean,
good.
I wasn't gonna kick his ass, but it was just like
Yeah.
he'd done something that I thought was very rude and aggressive at me, and I finally had that point where like I had a response to it.
Mhm.
But it's like wanting to communicate, want to make sure. And the thing about communicating is being prepared for, you know, whatever the outcome's going to be. You might not hear what you want to hear, but being able to be okay with not hearing what you want to hear and decide where you want to go with that, because you can't change other people. You can inform them of something you don't like, but you can't change somebody else. Um, and then, yeah, that's just something I kind of learned over the years. But I'll do that.
Yeah.
I do that exact same thing you talk about, where I'll be like, does that make sense? Does this, like, the over clarification, or apologizing? Um,
Yeah, I totally understand. Yeah.
um, well, we're getting kind of like later in this episode. Do you have anything else you would like to bring up, or?
My bladder is very full. So it is, I have a small bladder. So I don't think I have I don't think I have anything pressing except my bladder. Yeah.
Okay, okay, we can wrap this up. Um, well, okay, Kaitlin. Um, I wonder how this is gonna show up because you logged in under Jennifer. Is that your friend?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's your name is Jennifer on this.
Uh-oh. No, I'm Kaitlin Luce all the way. I'm not Jennifer Let's see. This is like my good friend. How do I not know how to say her last name? Valverde. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, Jenny. I love you, Jenny, to death. Okay.
But okay, well, thank you for doing this episode. It was fun. It was nice talking with you. And thank you to your friend Jennifer for helping you set this up. And yeah, if you ever want to do this again, let me know. Um, but have yourself a good night, Kaitlin. Thank you.
You too. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye.